The worst thing to eat before you do a podcast, by the way, cashews. You're swinging with Tarzan now. Yeah, it's time for another fun episode of It's This Meets That podcast, where we compare two movies to each other at the beginning and then never mention them again, because that's what we do around here. So I'm your host, one of your hosts, Russ.
Smart.
Yeah.
Careful here.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah, I'm the other host.
I'm joined by the other host, close friend, confidant, Jared. What are we talking? What are we doing? What are we talking about in this episode?
All right. Based on the unbelievable true story, live for sex, live for money, live for power, live for speed. What do you think we're talking about? Speed kills. What a treat. So, tagline for this movie: speedboat racing champion and multimillionaire Ben Aronoff leads a double life that lands him in trouble with the law and drug lords. Which I love the tacked on at the end, and drug lords.
And drug lords.
I also love, so it's based on a true story. And
an unbelievable true story.
Right. Sorry. An unbelievable true story. And I love how they, like, if you're saying it's based on a true story, why wouldn't you just use the guy's name? Like they're make it so close. Like it's Don Aronow or whatever, right?
Yeah. Aronow is a real guy, legit human being.
And instead they're like, oh no, Ben Aronoff. That's different enough that we won't be legally liable in case we do something kind of slandery.
Well, it's kind of weird because I wonder if like the Don Aronow like estate did not give them.
That's what I'm wondering. But at the same time, it's the same story still. Like, I imagine.
Like if you go to if you Google Don Aronow right now, listener, avid, lovely listener, and you read his Wikipedia page, it's pretty much this. But it's based on a book too. It's based on a book called Speed Kills More. I don't know, whatever. But it is based on a book about his life. So
yeah,
it is weird.
Yeah, don't care for it. Like, why wouldn't you just call him his name?
He changed one 3-letter name to another 3-letter name.
Right. I guess, yeah, I don't know. Doesn't matter. So tell us about the movie, Russ. What do we got for info here?
Oh, well, thanks for calling me out on this. But yeah, I will. I'm going to tell you all about it.
Yeah, I figured the best way to transition through segments is to say them as blatantly as possible.
I mean, that feels natural. It feels completely natural.
This feels natural. Russ, tell us info.
All right. Well, I will. So directed by Jody Skurfield.
Allegedly.
We'll get to that. First time director? Unsure. We're going to comment that later. Who do we have in this movie? We have obviously the Jay Travolta. Catherine Winnick.
Who I don't know.
Don't know. She seems like a very nice Canadian. Jennifer Esposito, you won't recognize the name, but you'll recognize the face. Like a lot of the people in this movie, she's known for Law & Order SVU. As soon as I saw her on screen, I was like, oh, yeah, I know her. But it's like one of those characters or actors, you're like, oh, yeah, I know who they are, but I don't know where they're from. But then
Yeah. Then you got my guy here, Michael Weston.
Michael Weston is your boy.
I love from Psych. He plays like a little nerdy guy that's like trying to tag around with the main characters, and he's super lovable, great character.
Yeah.
And in this movie also, super lovable, great character. He just seems like a nice guy. I love him.
So on top of that, like those are like the key actors, and then we have some random guest appear. Like when I say random, which we'll get to as we tear this thing apart, we have some guest appearances from Matthew Modine. And when I say guest, I really mean guest appearances. Like they were probably driving through town, or like, oh hey, you guys are making a movie? I'll pop in and say a line.
Yeah. I think you mean Vice President Modine.
Oh right. I'm sorry, Vice President Matthew Modine. Tom Sizemore. Like everyone was wondering what he was doing lately.
Great.
Both of which feel like they were a call-in favor from Travolta. Like they all know each other from back in the day, probably. And Travolta was like, "Hey, I'm making this movie down in Puerto Rico. Come on down,
guys. You want a nice, all expenses paid vacation? come on down. All you
Come
got
on
to do
down.
is act for a couple hours. And when I say act, I'm putting it in air quotes.
You can't see his hands, but he did air quotes. In act is, yeah, it's a soft word, but they probably just rode around a boat. Tom Sizemore just stood by a truck for a minute, and that's it.
Yep. Love it.
Uh, who
So it's
wrote
based on a
this?
book, right?
Yeah, it's based on a book. I think it's called Speed Kills. I probably should look that up. I'm pretty
Doesn't
sure it
matter.
is. Well, it really doesn't.
No one's gonna read the book.
No, no, no. I ever did like all the like they had all the ingredients for something that felt like it would have been good. So maybe the book. I don't know. Like we'll get to it, but
Actually, no, I guess you're right. I mean, something about it, we're like, I mean, we'll talk about it the rest of the time, but um, like a very similar feeling movie is like Blow to me, which is an infinitely better movie.
yeah.
But like, I would totally read a book about that. It would be great, and that's based on a couple of true-ish characters too, isn't it? Like, I feel like that's like a more of an amalgamation thing, like not necessarily based on one person, but like
Who
they could.
doesn't love the classic American dream movie about starting a boat company and turning into kind of like a drug running, laundering, gangster.
This could have been great. This could have been great. The trailer led me to believe it would be great because I thought it was going to be about that. I thought it was going to be about drugs. I thought it was going to be about. I thought it was going to be like a Scarface kind of movie. The
No,
trailer built me up so much.
it was about just I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but screen.
Sorry, go ahead.
So we're talking screenwriters here now, right?
Yeah, so there's two. So actually, like there's like 4 or 5 people actually involved in like the story writing. Obviously, the person who wrote the book was involved. I should have their name on here. I don't. Like I said, read the book separately if you want. Go Google it.
Like I said, we're not good at our jobs here.
No, we're not professionals at all. So whatever. But so there's two guys who wrote the screenplay. David Aaron Cohen and John Lucenhop. Not a lot of credits under their belt. Not a lot of it feels like writing experience. Lucenhop had directed. He's directed more than he's written,
Sure.
and the stuff he directed like Chainsaw Massacre 3D. I didn't see that.
Doubt it was good, but
I mean, whatever. It's probably a slasher horror. I mean, it's like based on
yeah,
Chainsaw Massacre, but in 3D. So,
sure.
And then David Cohen, he did write a screenplay for The Devil's Own.
The Devil's Own Wears Prada, or
No, no. The Devil's Own.
Not the same movie. Okay, go on.
Not the same movie. Devil's Own with Harrison Ford and Brad Pitt back in '97.
Right.
I don't think it was a very good movie. I don't remember seeing it. Maybe I did, but still, legit movie. And he also did. I don't know if he did all of Friday Night Lights, but he was a part of Friday Night Lights. So,
which is great.
Yeah, never watched it, but I heard it's great. So I don't know. Kind of mixed on the screenwriting aspect here. So,
yeah, and I mean, unfair. Like this is a wildly expensive movie. Like we didn't talk about. And by wildly expensive, I mean it's not really in the grand scheme of things, but for the quality we got, I would say wildly expensive.
Yeah. So the budget of this was $22 million. And I think this is according to, so they filmed this all in Puerto Rico.
Sure.
And there was a whole article about how important that was it created like something around 600-700 jobs down in the area locally, which is great. That's what's great about movies where they get made.
Sure.
But $22 million, like
on what? Like on what?
Yeah.
I mean, boats are expensive, so
yeah. I always find this interesting number, right? Like the budget of a movie. Like there's obviously the production budget, and there's like the marketing budget, right? Which is probably like another X number of $1 million tacked on.
Not for this movie.
Nope, not at all. So kind of interesting. So $22 million, like, yeah. I mean, again, like, how much is Travolta raking in on this?
I hope at least a couple million. He wasn't bad. Like his performance was pretty good.
I mean, he's got to be. I mean, you imagine like
we're gonna shit on this movie a bunch. His performance was pretty good. Like all things considered, he could have been way worse.
He definitely could have. We've seen him in worse, so
We've
that's true.
seen him do much worse.
But it's interesting because like you look at the budget, $22 million. Like now you can do some math and it's like, well, what is he now as an actor like commanding in terms of a dollar amount, right? Where it's like
Yeah,
you get some actors who like their baseline is $20 million to make a movie.
sure.
So he's got to be making out of this maybe probably 5 million, maybe.
Yeah, you get. I mean, maybe you get Michael Weston. He's probably making like, $5,000 an episode of Psych.
So
So
we
yeah, comparatively, yeah, sure. John Travolta probably pulling in 5 now.
and there's no way any of the other actors made nearly what he made. So
No,
so then we get we do have we get the budget 22, and we get a box office breakdown here. So it's kind of interesting. I did some digging and
wide release,
super wide release. So it was a little weird. So the box office numbers showed that it made $5,812. Now I did some digging, and it looks like this was only only theatrically released in Bolivia.
Yep, that sounds right.
I say that with like a question at the end. Maybe someone else who's listening may know better. Probably not. I don't know.
Definitely not. Yeah, we're all as smart as the internet.
Yeah, pretty much. Right? Like at the end of the day. But fun fact, not a fast fact, but a fun fact. It did make $2,007 more than our episode 2 episode, The Fanatic.
Yep.
Another Travolta special.
Huge.
Which only made 3,000 and, a couple video games worth.
Sure.
Interesting part. So breaking this down. So I did find how the breakdown of like the total, what this movie's totally made. So the budget was 22 million. It was released theatrically, apparently in Bolivia. It made $5,000, which is, I don't know how much a movie ticket is in Bolivia. That could be a lot of people. Who knows?
Probably not.
I did get DVD and the Blu-ray breakdown. And this is kind of funny. So DVD, the old digital versatile disc,
still super common, yeah.
Which blows my mind. I have no DVDs in my house. I
grow up.
Barely have a DVD.
We have hundreds of DVDs.
I stream everything. I got rid of all my DVDs. Why have all that clutter? 940,000 ballpark, right? For DVD sales.
Sure.
Blu-ray sales, 600,000.
Yeah, way fewer because this movie sucks.
Yeah, so total it made $1.6 million, right?
Yeah,
on a $22 million budget.
If I could find this in the $3 DVD bucket, which I can, I'm definitely gonna pick that up because I'm like, oh well, it's John Travolta. It's gonna be a watchable movie. Versus a Blu-ray, I'm gonna spend probably $14, maybe $16 on this kind of Blu-ray. That's a huge like. I'm saying they're selling way more quantity DVDs.
So I just doing some quick math here. So if we're looking at DVDs, 940,000, which rounded down, right? $940,000 worth of sales on DVD.
Sure.
Let's just call it $5. It's in the $5 Walmart bin, right?
Yep.
That means it sold like 180,000 copies.
That's so few. I feel like that's a reasonable expect. Hundreds of thousands of people have seen this movie, Russ. You have to know that's true. You have to know that's true.
I mean, I know, well, yeah, but like at the same time, I look at that number like, man, that's a lot of people to see this movie.
Yeah.
It's like too many.
It's John Travolta.
It's
Pulp Fiction. It's Hairspray. It's all of the John Travolta classics.
So if we break this down, then we're basically, if we do this mathematically here, then we're looking at Travolta's got about 300,000 fans then.
Easily. More than that. Way more than that.
Based on DVD sales alone.
Yeah, that's insane. That's an insanely low amount of fans for John Travolta.
I wonder how many followers he's got on Twitter.
I'm a John Travolta fan. Wow.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a Travolta fan. I'm just saying, this is where we're at.
Yeah, he's a legend. All right, so it's time for our Hollywood pitch. For me, it's really Titanic meets Wolf of Wall Street. For a number of reasons.
Not
one,
Not for
Yeah.
the budget, clearly, because the budget of Titanic alone was more than this, like times
The
a
but
million.
yeah, the budget of both of these movies combined is probably like $1 billion. And both of them probably made $2 billion. Who knows?
Yeah,
So much money. No, it's not about budget. We're not talking about budget. We're not talking about quality. Both of these are fairly good quality movies in their own right. I think there's a
yeah,
lot of defenders out there of Titanic. A little boring for me, but whatever you're into. And Wolf of Wall Street, I loved. I know a lot of people didn't like it either, but great movie.
yeah.
So
Hated it.
Titanic, one, is a boat. This movie is primarily boat based.
True.
Uh, so easy layup there.
Yeah,
Uh, but also just like the sinking feeling you
yeah,
get in Titanic as the boat is sinking,
yep.
I feel like you get this whole like the whole time I'm just like, John Travolta just constantly letting me down, sinking further and further into God knows what. Just like in Wolf of Wall Street, where
Yeah.
Leo, like so many times where I was like, oh, I've already seen this in Wolf of Wall Street. Now they're both based on true stories. It's true that there are a lot of shitty people in the world. Uh, these are
Mostly.
these are two seemingly fairly shitty people.
They're extremely
um,
shitty.
and yeah, but at the same time, like it was such an opportunity, especially considering it's based on a true story, to make this like Wolf of Wall Street, which was fun.
Yeah.
I would have watched this movie. I think I actually would have watched this movie if it was 2.5 hours. Like Wolf of Wall Street is close to 3 hours,
Oh,
and the
wow.
whole thing, I like it. Like it's because you need all of that story to actually care about the characters. The biggest flaw in this movie was how you didn't care about anyone. Because there was just not enough time spent. You're like, oh, why should I care about this person?
Yeah.
What kind of relationship do these people have? What am I doing here?
There's no stakes.
No.
There's no stakes that meant anything. So
Yeah, the story itself is cool. It's a cool story. I would totally have watched easily 2 hours of this movie if they could have made it better.
my pitch is Goodfellas meets Speed 2 meets
Uh-huh.
The Perfect Storm.
Okay. Little threesome.
I went for the threesome.
Smart.
Yeah. Well, of course it is. Right? Why wouldn't you?
Sure.
Depending on the situation. Anyways, yeah.
I almost went Speed 2. I get that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's about boats.
It's boats. It's
and
boat based.
and Speed 2 is pretty terrible. So I know Goodfellas is a really good movie.
Yeah,
Um,
great movie.
I just want to grab like the crime aspect.
Sure. You could have said Godfather. You could have said
Whatever. You
any crime movie.
really any crime movie. And in Speed 2, because I wanted to make sure people knew like I'm not really serious about this, but it is about boats. And Perfect Storm, mostly just because there's one scene which we'll talk about that is Perfect Storm of boats.
Fair. I would have loved this movie, I think, if it had been more like Speed 2. I don't want to see cigarette boats. I want to see cruise liners. Honorable mention.
Honorable mention, Hollywood pitch here, Thais, Jared's girlfriend. This might actually be better than both ours. I think if someone came to me and was like, "Hey, I'm going to make this movie," I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll give you 22-ish million."
Yeah, I'll give you roughly 22 million. Only if you get John Travolta, though.
Only if you get Travolta, and only if you can fill in Puerto Rico, where
Right.
taxes we can evade all that.
Smart.
She went with It's American Made meets Seabiscuit.
Yeah,
Which
and I've never seen American Made, so that's why you're talking about it.
So quick. I'll give a quick, update about American Made is the Tom Cruise kind of indie flick that kind of is off to the side there. Basically about a plane drug runner.
Cool.
You just trade planes for boats.
It's like Tom Cruise Blow.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Also based on a true story.
Yep.
So
and Seabiscuit we all know and love. And this movie is weirdly about horses. There's too many horses in this movie.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a deeper cut than I thought. I think she wins with the I think she wins with the pitch there. It's better than either of ours. Very
horse based.
Yeah. All right, so we've pitched this movie. We're both going to make it. We both sent each other $22 million. Let's get into the fast facts. What do we got for fast facts? We're not in Spoilerville yet, so let's move on.
Yeah, let's do it. So first up, like we said, based on the true life story of Don Aronoff,
Yep.
very close to Ben Aronoff. Um, and John Travolta looks shockingly like him. Like
like,
weirdly, same eyebrows, similar hairline.
yeah,
Uh,
similar. Yeah, he's very close. Aronoff died in '87 when he's 59.
yeah, and John Travolta looked like he died in '87.
Sorry, I guess that's I guess that's spoilers if I just said the guy died in '87. He died in the movie. Anyways, whatever.
Yeah, he died in the movie. He died in real life.
He died really. Yeah.
You die in the game. You die in real life.
That's what happens. Travolta does look a lot like him, but Travolta is like, would we figure out he's like 67 million years old?
No, yeah, something like that. Like he's like Xenu age.
Yeah.
However old you think Xenu is, about that old.
Is that the guy who came out of the fucking volcano?
Yeah, it's a Scientology thing.
Yeah, we might get shot for referencing that. I might have to edit that out.
No, we're gonna be on the list.
Yeah, whatever. We're leaving it in. So along with this big release, I remember this. I remember when this movie was like launched for the fucking
yeah, when it was popular,
like for like the 2 seconds it was. I
in
do
Bolivia.
remember hearing a lot of chatter about. So it's a feature film, but it also came with an 8-episode VR experience,
which is wild. I had no idea. I didn't know that until you.
Really?
Until you and Thais were talking about it.
I remember, and I pulled up the article slash film, and they were talking about like, yeah, this movie's coming out with a VR experience. Why? And it was like, yeah, great question. Super gimmicky fucking thing to do.
And also 8 episodes. Like, do you, since it's a VR experience, do you do it outside of the movie, or do you like take a break mid movie and experience the VR?
I have absolutely no idea. I'm not sure how that would work.
Like the 8 episodes have to end before the movie ends, right?
Well, no, I think the 8 episodes are parallel with the movie.
So right, and that's what I mean. Like they're it's all encompassing in this.
Oh yeah.
You know,
it's like new shots basically. It's new. It's like getting B-roll footage, but it's like legit part of the movie, right? It's like, oh, a different angle, and you get to look around all around.
Terrible.
It's fucking super gimmicky. Filmed the same time. I don't think anyone really saw it. I'm curious. I watched a couple clips on YouTube and panned around for a bit. Pretty sure it was stupid.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, I've never had a VR experience movie, I guess, unless you count 4D. Shout out to Showcase Cinema Revere for the 4D.
Right. Why would you say that?
Where the seats move around.
I have to bleep that out now.
Oh no, you don't. No, man, I'm shouting out the theater because the seats are awesome. It like moves you around. It's like you're on a ride at Disney World. It's great. That's the kind of VR experience I want. I don't want this kind of VR experience where they're like, oh, you can be on a boat with the weird blonde guy. Spoilers.
Hold on. That's not what you did. Wasn't a virtual. That's what?
No, it's not virtual reality. It's actual reality.
Yeah, it's an AR. It's an AR experience.
Augmented. Yeah. AR, commonly known as actual reality. Yeah. Either way, that's what I want. 4D is what I want. I don't want this VR nonsense.
I don't either. I want they have YouTube clips, and I was like, what is this doing? This does nothing. This does nothing. It's stupid. It's a gimmick, right?
Yeah, we're curmudgeons now.
Yeah. So there's that. I guess you can go and watch those somewhere. Do that if you'd like. I don't know if they're still out there. I tried looking them up. I'm like actually on right now. I'm actually on the website of the company that made them. I think it's VR Focus or Top Dog. I don't know. It's so
Top Dog VR Entertainment.
Yeah, I have no idea. You can download it and fucking Oculus your brains out if you'd like with it, but.
Well, ties into the other fast fact here of this won an award for its VR, the best VR film.
Best VR film at CineQuest Festival in 2018. I don't know. I've never heard of CineQuest Festival.
It sounds super legit to me.
I would, yeah. I mean, like
CineQuest is the new Can for sure.
I think you might be onto something. I mean, with a tagline like innovate, create, whatever.
Oh yeah, this is a gem. What a beauty site here.
Yeah.
Web hosting donated by Hurricane Electric. That's
Yeah,
nice.
I trust that. I trust that.
I love when my web hosting is donated.
Yeah.
Shout
So
out to web hosting companies.
if you'd like to host It's This Meets That, just contact.
Yeah, not a sponsor. Web hosting companies yet.
Kidding me? In like 10 episodes from now, we'll be like, we got to take a quick break for our Square update.
I can't wait. You mean Squarespace, don't you?
Uh,
I hope
yeah.
Squarespace. I mean, Square also could sponsor us.
I mean, anything Square related, I'm happy to like, give them a shout out.
I prefer Doritos, honestly. If we can get Doritos to sponsor
I
us.
think we're just gonna bleep these out.
Yeah. Shout out to Doritos.
All right. No, I'm gonna bleep them out so it's like, hey, your name could be here. All right,
Smart.
so we're gonna move on.
Yeah, Hilton hotels provide the best experience for you.
Stop giving free fucking ads, man. Stop talking.
So you get sponsors.
No, I don't think that's how that works. They're like, no, keep talking about us. That's fine. All two of your listeners. I'm sure your mom will stay at a fucking.
Yeah. All right, shout out to Robin Brady. Don't edit that, Russ.
So we're still in fast. All right, so whatever.
Cinequest, yeah.
Yeah, moving on.
Jody Scurfield. Let's talk about Jody Scurfield for a second here. Jody with an I.
Oh, right. Okay, hold on. Yeah, so so the director, as we spoke earlier, is the Jody Scurfield.
Right. Allegedly.
So now this is kind of interesting. I did like IMDb, did some digging, clicked on it. Only one movie to their name.
Yeah. Russ, investigative journalist. Hey. Clicked a link on IMDb.
I mean, come on. I probably did more than most fucking journalists. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, thank you. There's nothing there, just speed kills. Like, all right, it's kind of weird. No photo, nothing, right? No other credits. So you telling me this director comes out of nowhere and just directs this movie out,
This masterpiece.
So I did some Googling, as one would do, as an investigative journalist would do. I don't think this person exists. Nothing shows up anywhere about a Jody Scurfield.
No, I mean, I think it's telling that if you Google, I feel like, personalized Google results are obviously a thing, but if you Google Jody Scurfield right now, the top two results will probably be the same for you as they were for me. Yeah. The first result is this movie, a link to the IMDb page for this movie. And the second result is a Reddit post about, is Jody Scurfield a pseudonym for someone else?
Yep. Yeah. So that's interesting. I think that's more interesting than the plot of the movie itself.
Oh, by far. Right? I really want to know who Jody Scurfield is.
Like, yeah. There was some chatter in some of that Reddit forum where they were thinking it was a pseudonym for one of the writers, the guy who directed, the guy who did the directing for the Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Right.
Like maybe he took over and just directed, but just threw a random name on it because he probably really didn't want his name attached to it. But his name is attached to it writing-wise.
Like, exactly. Yeah, his name is attached to it either way.
They made those things.
I prefer to think of it more as a Spartacus thing. Like, we're all Jody Scurfield, and I think this is the downfall of movies. Letting John Travolta continue to act is a crime against all of us, and I am Jody Scurfield because I watched it and participated in this madness.
Yeah, and it's Jody, Jodi.
Right, the preferred spelling.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I don't think this director actually existed, which honestly makes sense.
Yeah, and I like how it's a man. Also, in theory, if we're saying that like Jody Scurfield is not a real person, we're like, oh, it's supposed to be this dude who wrote it instead.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
A little bit.
I want Jody Scurfield to be real.
Jody Scurfield, if you're out there and you happen to stumble upon this, just reach out.
Reach out to us, yeah.
We want to talk to you. We want to know your side of the story.
Yeah. It's thismeetsthat@gmail.com. Send us an email.
Is that real? Did you make that?
That's real. I made that. Yeah.
You're doing something.
Keep that in there.
Oh yeah, one of them. So yeah, Jody, if you're out there, reach out to us, talk to us. We just want to know your side of the story. Like, you know.
Yeah, we'll re-record this episode. I don't care. We'll delete the first one out.
It'd be kind of funny if like 10 years from now,
Yeah.
I'm Jody Scarfield.
Delete this shit. Yeah, we're all Jody Scarfield. God damn it.
We are yeah, we're all Jody Scarfield. So this one's like I did a little actually. I was doing some hardcore investigative journalism here.
Yeah, you're really talented.
Thank you, man.
Brave and talented.
I mean, I clicked at least 2 or 3 links on IMDb to get to this information. And then I had to look up other movies. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
30 producers, right? So the average I had looked up a bunch of Marvel movies. I looked up a bunch of other like legit movies. And the average film has around, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 at most producers, executive producers, assistant, right?
Which is still a lot of people, but not 30.
Yeah, I mean, 30 producers to make this $22.
This $22 film. No, the gas. Just think about the gasoline they use in this movie.
Like,
the gasoline they use in this movie was easily $8 million.
So I think, and this is going to tie to like our other podcast potentially. Maybe this will morph into it. But 30 producers, what the fuck were they all doing?
Spending money. I mean, it takes money to make money. You can't get $22 million from no one.
It also makes me think that, and we've theorized this before, that I don't know, maybe all these producers, and maybe it's just a little money laundering movie making scheme.
Yeah, we're calling you out right now, producers of this movie.
All 30 of you.
Yeah. Speed Kills producers, we're on to you.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah. Don't go to Russ's house.
No. You don't know where I live, so that's good. But like seriously, I think that's a fast fact, but I think it's also just, curious.
Yep. It's more of a curious fact.
Yeah, it's more of a curious fact. We're probably gonna end up dead somewhere, probably down in like a ditch somewhere, aren't we?
Yeah. If we end up we didn't get smiley face killered. We got murdered by these 30 producers.
If this is our last episode ever, you know what happened to us. So
make sure you keep this in. Definitely don't edit this part out.
I think Brady and Rob are like, this is the last episode. Do we go find them? They won't do that.
No.
Although that would be a good movie if the two of them teamed up to go find their 2 friends who got, potentially in like a drug, because we uncovered some great. We'll work on that one.
Yeah.
Final fast facts. We can get through this. The soundtrack.
The soundtrack, unbelievable. First of all, in general, was great.
I'm gonna throw it out there. Fucking rips.
It was a rocker, beginning to end, constantly moving. I don't think there were no downers here in the mix.
To take a line from my other host, not my co-host, because we host together here.
Thank you. Yeah.
It fucking rips.
It rips. Yeah.
Give it. This is your jam right here.
Yeah, I mean, acclaimed Toronto-based DJ Miss Tara.
Do we know who that is?
No, we have no idea who that is, but they're acclaimed according to this fast fact.
Keep going.
That I threw on here. Wrote the song. It's okay. With some guest vocals, Colombian singer Jacob Duque.
I think Duke.
Could be a number of ways to pronounce that. Stepping in to provide the vocals, and hugely won Best Latin Song from the Academia. Who knows how you say it?
Yeah.
Music Awards. Yeah.
We're learning how to read. It's okay.
Well, it's Academia with a K, so you never know how it's pronounced. But
it's a little weird.
Huge win there. So like award-winning soundtrack from an acclaimed Toronto-based producer.
Award-winning best VR film. I mean, this is an award-winning film.
It's one of the best movies we've ever talked about on this podcast, for sure.
Oh boy. She's on Instagram.
We're not talking about the episodes that we did about Spider-Man stuff that we used to do that we're not going to release, whatever. But
No, she seems nice. Oh, yeah,
You gotta log in.
yeah. I'm not doing that. Anyways, yeah. So that's fast facts, right?
Yep.
Now I would say we're gonna get into the breakdown of the movie now. So spoilers beware.
Yeah. Just beware in general, I would say. All right, so let's get into it. Uh Opening scene of the movie. Before the opening scene, we get the credits, we get the production rolling in. I like how there's like a, speaking of money laundering, like speed kills Hannibal production. You're like, wait a second.
Yeah,
They made a weird production studio named after the movie just to make this movie.
just for this movie. And by the way, like again, so because you get the Lionsgate right off the bat, and then there's like a quick cut of like all the
Right.
other production companies, and then there's
Yep.
like he kills Hannibal. We because we're investigative journalists now.
Yep.
We looked at the Hannibal. It's called Hannibal Classics Productions.
Yep.
Um, there's no classics on there
No.
in their website. Definitely looks like just a rigged up.
Yeah, and the recent like company news is like recently paid off huge loan to bank. You're like, sick, huge win.
Yep, huge win for that production company, crushing it.
Yeah, so I love that. Great way to start the movie. And then once we get into the opening scene here, spoilers ahead, as always. The opening scene is the last scene, also.
Yep,
Yeah.
classic.
So you got Tom Sizemore, who immediately I was like, oh, I like this guy. He's a cool. He's in stuff. He's
Legit.
a good actor. Yeah, he's a legit guy. And he's talking up this whole. He's like delivering a ton of lines. He walks into describing the scene a little bit.
Yep.
For those of you who decided not to watch this, probably smartly.
Shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you, but also I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you for doing something else. I hope you went for a bike ride.
Yeah, I hope you did anything else. And Tom Sizemore walks into a car dealer or some kind of dealership. It's a dealership. It's a boat dealership.
Yeah.
And starts talking to the women working there.
Which, by the way,
like
two random women. Like, this one girl is just sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
And like
they're not important. Yeah.
What? It's like
they're completely irrelevant. They're not in the rest of the movie.
They also look completely shocked that someone walked in the front door.
Yes, they're like, oh, a customer, neat.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, how can we help you? And this guy like goes into this rant. Tom Sizemore goes into this rant. He's like, oh, just looking for a boat for my boss, and my boss is this cool dude who loves boats, and so I wish,
Ben.
yeah,
Ben Aaron.
Yeah. Trying to get in touch with him for a week.
My bossy boss.
Yeah, and then Ben pops out. John Travolta, Ben Aronoff, comes out of his little office there. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll engage with you. I am Ben. What do you need?" And he's like, "Oh, my boss. I'd do anything for my boss. I would do anything and everything for my boss." Says boss about 1,000 times.
At least 1,000 times.
And I thought they were setting up this really cute moment. Like I honestly thought, because I didn't. So when I read the preview, when I saw the trailer, and then when I read the description, I still have no concept of the plot of this movie. Even after watching it, I still don't really know. So I'm like, oh, maybe they're setting up this really cute moment where he's like, oh, my boss, my boss, my boss. It's like oh, captain, my captain. And he's talking about John Travolta the whole time. And I'm like, oh, like maybe he's being like, I'm your guy. Like I would do anything for you.
That's what it seemed like.
It's not that though.
Quick question, quick pause. Did they, I remember in the trailer, we watched the trailer, right? Do you remember the shot where they were like, he had the gun behind his back? Do we see that in the opening scene?
No, we don't see that in the opening scene.
All right. So they left that out.
Yeah. We don't know that John Travolta has a gun behind his back unless you watch the trailer.
Unless you watch the trailer and then you watch the first 2 minutes of the movie and you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and John Travolta looks awful. So I think you commented on this.
Yeah, Travolta he looks like he's wearing a wax mask of John Travolta.
I think that's the perfect way to describe it.
That's basically what Travolta looked like. So
yes, and the whole time, so my like, oh, this is a meet cute of like a protege and his mentor, right? Is what I'm thinking, except for the music. The music is the only thing, like everything about the scene is guiding me towards that, except the music is so dramatic. Like as soon as the guy walks into the dealership, it's like dum dum. You're like, wait, whoa.
That's funny because I thought the complete opposite. I
Really?
thought I was like, oh, this guy seems like, well, it's Tom Sizemore, one who usually plays creepy bad guys and everything he's in.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was like such an awkward interaction. I was like, who who's this guy who's got his pants hiked up to his fucking past his waist?
Which I like. Yeah.
I was just like, this is weird. And then it went right into the bossy boss conversation. I was like, what the fuck? What's going on right now?
Yeah.
Like,
Amazing. So then so they go through this whole thing where I think Tom Sizemore is like sucking up to John Travolta, but then all of a sudden John Travolta is rejecting him and it's like,
yeah,
get out of my, like, go tell,
yeah,
yeah, go tell that guy.
yeah.
He's like, go tell that guy. And then the best line out of Tom Sizemore, okay, I'll tell him every word. And
Well,
John
hold on.
Travolta,
The guy, to go tell your boss because that's what he's tell him
right,
everything. And then Sizemore was like, yeah, well, I'll tell my boss everything.
every word.
What?
And he walks out. Then presumably John Travolta watches him smoke a whole cigarette, because then it just kind of like cuts to Tom Sizemore
Super jacked up
from,
pants.
well, yeah, with super jacked up pants, from John Travolta's perspective out his window. Tom Sizemore is standing in front of his truck and he's putting out a cigarette butt. And you're like, what? Did he smoke a cigarette between walking from the front door to his truck?
Pretty much.
Like, what's the timeline of cigarette here? Because I'm wondering how long John Travolta is staring at him out the window.
Well, one thing we'll learn as we go through this film is that time matters, but it really doesn't in terms of
Time means nothing. Yeah.
like there's time is mentioned, but it's mentioned in such a chaotic way that it feels like it's not it's not a linear thing.
Yeah. And
so
then, well,
quick, what?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just think about this. Is that it for Tom Sizemore? Is that the only scene he's in?
No, definitely not. No.
Okay. All right, we'll get.
Yeah, he's in. I mean, he's another scene. I mean, he's in the scene at the end, but also a bunch of other scenes towards the end, right? Which is the beginning. But he's also in a few other scenes before that also made no sense and were completely irrelevant.
Okay.
With whoever the big guy is,
I'll scratch that.
He looked familiar to me. The big guy that shot him with the beard, with like the stubble beard, he looked familiar.
No,
yeah. Tom Sizemore's partner looked familiar to me, and so I love the line. So John Travolta staring out this window at Tom Sizemore putting out a cigarette butt by his truck.
His Ford F-150.
Hops into his little car there. Yeah, drives out.
By the way, hold on. We have to set the tone that this is in the 80s. So this is the opening.
Yo, yes, yeah.
The opening scene is in the 87.
Late 80s, yeah, 87.
Late 80s, right? So late 80s. So the hiked up pants, maybe that was a thing. I don't know. I mean, I was a kid then. I had hiked up pants, but
right. I was unborn.
Yep. You were,
in 87.
Close.
Yeah, close. Yeah, I was 2 years away. But yeah, so some guy like flags him down. He's driving away in his little car, and some guy flags him down, and he stops and he goes, "Hey, Ben," and then just like pulls out a gun, and then it cuts.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, interesting opening scene.
There was a gunshot though, but yeah, it was the old like. I mean, there's so many films that have started with the ending of
totally, yeah.
Like it's a great setup for like, oh, how did this character get there, right?
Hey Ben is a great line of just like, oh, hey Ben, blah blah blah. Like, love it.
Okay.
Yeah,
and it we got.
So then it cuts to Florida. Like all of a sudden we're in Florida. Like this, it opens. There's also a weirdly inconsistent amount of spelling out where we are. So like, in the bottom left there, where it's telling us, New Jersey, 1962. Like wildly inconsistent throughout the whole movie. Like sometimes there'll be a
Right.
description, but sometimes there won't be. It jumps around a lot in time and location, and like you never really know where it's set. You're like,
Yeah.
I think this is 5 years in the future, but I have no way of knowing that.
None of the like letting you know when we are. So like this takes place over 20 years, right? Basically.
Yeah, more than that. So 25, 30 years.
Right?
It
Because
takes
like,
place
well,
early 60s, right? It's
so the
1962 is when it starts.
right, yeah, right. And like the opening of the movie is 80 something, but they don't say that, right?
Right, right.
And then it's, oh no, no. Well, what they do is they say 25 years earlier. That's right. So they play the opening scene and then they jump and they cut in between. It says 25 years earlier, and all of a sudden they jump to Travolta on a phone, pay phone.
Like Miami, 1962.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, cool. So this movie takes place over 20 years, and it's like, yeah, okay, we'll see how it goes. Yeah,
And then I love like the like first quote there when he's talking on the phone to his wife and he's like, "Oh, the war's over." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "What year is this? 1962?" I was like, "What war is over in 1962?" I was like, "Well, Korean War ended in 53. Vietnam really gets kind of started up in 63."
yeah.
I'm like, I
What?
don't what
What?
war is he talking about? And then I was like, "Oh, the Cuban Revolution." It took me probably 20 minutes into the movie. I'm like,
It,
oh wait, Cuban Revolution. He's talking about
nope.
Castro. He's talking about communists. I get it now.
That might have been like maybe the smartest thing the movie did, and I didn't even pick up on it. But
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that one out. And
I
then
didn't even
like,
hear it. I didn't even care because I didn't even hear it. I was like, what?
well, you didn't care because, and I know why you didn't care because I called it out too. We're in the phone booth, and you see right after you see Travolta old, like as himself. When I say old, I mean as his current self. He's old.
Yes.
Uh, then it flashes back to 1962, and you're like, wait a second, are they going to do young Travolta somehow?
Oh,
Are they replacing him with someone? What's the goal here?
I was
And
waiting.
no, they only dyed his hair.
Yep.
The only change.
I couldn't listen to anything that was happening because I was waiting. I was like, are they gonna try to do like a, are they gonna try and do like a fucking Irishman like thing with him right now? I was like, oh man, I hope they do because this will be fucking terrible.
Yeah, I wrote making Travolta younger is a riot because it is like he looks like he's in his mid 60s. They're like, oh no, he's 30 now. You're like, no, he's not.
No, not even close. Not even close. All right, so he's on the phone. So we get to the beginning and the end. They do a flashback. All right, so we're jumping back to the beginning of this character's life. Right, we're in
Yep,
1950s. He's like finding this place. He's left New Jersey. I think this is where we're at right now. Right,
yep,
he's left Jersey, as we'll say.
right.
He was
Going from one dirtbag place to another, Jersey to Miami.
100%. And he was in construction, and I say that loosely because it's referenced a fucking million times for the next like 5 minutes, right? That
Yep,
he was in construction, right?
yep.
And they do a shot of him over like a looking over Miami, whatever. And I also love this quote because like it's so funny to think about this now, like in our current time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, would anyone ever say this? Like, it is a quote. Like, I kind of I like chuckled. It's a new beginning. We're in Florida.
I mean, yes. I think yes, and only because Florida is lawless. Like you can always have a new beginning in Florida, and I think it holds true in our current times.
It, it's it is Florida is kind of like it's the wild wild south
Yes,
basically.
absolutely. And he's talking to his wife, and like he addresses her, and he's like, "What does he call her, Mrs. Aronoff?" He's like, "Oh, Mrs. Aronoff." Blah blah blah. Addressing your wife as Mrs. whatever your last name is a weird thing to do, like almost Mike Pence level weird
Yeah,
of like calling your wife mother.
it is what it is it's a terrible writing situation where you're like, oh, I need to introduce this character
Yeah,
and make sure the audience knows that this is my wife.
yeah, yeah. I don't care for it. It's a real sketchy thing to do.
No one fucking says like, oh, hey, Mrs. Zarina, hey, Mrs. My wife,
Yeah,
basically.
and this it's just like adding extra exposition to the movie, and they do the same thing when they come into the bar and like uh whatever the sketchy dude's like, oh, but like Ben Aronoff, the king of construction.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Oh,
What a fun nickname. Like, and how exposition-y. Now I
yeah.
know exactly what you do.
Yeah, which we already knew. Didn't he even like talk about where he came from? Like he,
Yeah. And then he's like, in my mind, like, he's like, oh, yeah, we pissed off a lot of people, like, building houses. And
yeah,
he's like, pissed off a bunch of banks. I was like, wait, why are banks pissed off about building houses? It seems like that's a place
pretty.
they only stand to make money.
Yeah, I feel like banks love building homes.
Yeah. What?
Like, wasn't there a whole? Anyways,
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, and cut to the beach.
yeah. Yeah, so we get the quick intro of the family. He's got a family life. We get an idea he's from New Jersey. He doesn't like the winters, complains about the winters in Jersey.
Yep.
Definitely, all of a sudden you get this feeling of like, oh, there's a bunch of actors in this movie. Like, so his wife is oh Jesus, I feel bad now. Jennifer Esposito. So his wife, Jennifer
Right.
Esposito, is like
Original wife.
yeah, her first wife. She's known for Law and Order SVU, and I was like, holy shit, yeah, it's her. She's great. Why why is she in this? That was my thought.
Yep.
So we now establish he's down in Florida. He's starting new. He
Yep.
left Jersey, which you trade Jersey for Florida. Okay. We get an idea that he's probably in some shady shit back in Jersey, which
Yep. He
makes
is.
sense, you know?
Yep. And then there's a bunch of like weird like things that are very clearly meant to be like, oh, this is the 1960s.
Yeah,
Like you're like, oh, look at how they're dancing and look at the cars. But then also like there were weird things where I was like, oh, these bathing suits look very modern. Like you're like, oh, these bikinis are not 1960s bikinis. I'm pretty sure. Like,
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't alive then, but yeah, I feel like there was a lot of mid cover back then, but I don't know.
Even in like the men's outfits, even like there's a lot of anachronistic fashion that kind of bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, they did a bad job of like reminding you when we were, and this was a problem throughout the entire movie. And there was moments where there's moments where they tried to reset it and it was like, this is terrible. Like, this is how you're gonna reset. Like,
yeah,
when we are, and yeah.
The best reminder of a time period was John Travolta constantly smoking cigarettes. Like every 5 minutes in the movie, John Travolta is smoking a cigarette.
That's yeah, because in the 60s that's when you smoke. That's it.
Yeah. It's the best.
So we get Travolta down. He's down in Florida, Jersey, shady shit. He's trying to escape. He's trying to do nothing for anyone, right? He's just trying to do his own thing, right?
Sees his first boat, and he's like, I'm in love.
Ever in his life, he's never seen a boat in his life ever.
Yep. He's a big boat guy as of right now. He's like, wait a second, turn to point here. There's a turn point in my life. This is it. I'm a boat guy now.
Travolta, it's very hard for me to separate. Like, I just want to call him Travolta. I don't want to call him by his character's name because I feel like it's just Travolta on vacation. He sees his first boat, and he gets excited.
He's like, I love boats. I fucking love boats. Let's do this.
If I could have sex on a boat, I would. If I could have sex with a boat, I would.
Spoilers. All right, so love this line. So there's no there's no in between. There's no transition into him being a boat guy. He's just like he sees a boat and he like talks to this guy. He's like, hey, you see that fucking boat over there? And he's like, yeah, fucking. I have to say fuck enough so that this movie can be rated R still. And he's like, my first race against a bunch of rich fat cats. And I'm like, wait a second, aren't you a rich fat cat kind of?
So let's take a step back here. So there was an awkward transition, and we just tried to have getting into the next section of this movie. That should give you a sign that that's how the movie was cut.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. None of it made any sense.
Like, as awkward as it was for us to move on, was the same for the movie itself.
Yeah, and like they're making it seem immediately like with not being clever about it, but they're just like make it seem like underground boat racing is like a thing that we're already supposed to know about.
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, I definitely came into this movie suspecting that was what this movie was about, when I had no idea.
Yeah, like give us like a little bit of like a little something. So he sees his
Yeah,
first boat, and then all of a sudden he's on a boat, right? He gets on a he does he get on a boat with a blonde guy? Are we
yeah.
talking about blonde
He
guy
gets
yet?
it. Yeah, no, we haven't talked about the blonde guy yet. He gets on the boat with the blonde guy, and he's like, "Oh,
Who
as the kids say, let's fucking riff this boat shit up so we can keep this rated R." Blah blah blah.
then he's like all of a sudden quickly into a boat race.
Right, which they make it seem like there's some kind of underground boat race, but at the same time, like it's not an underground. Like there are helicopters with
Yeah,
announcers that are
right.
announcing everything that's going on. Like
Yeah.
it's very like Wave Runner, like you're playing an N64 game where they're announcing exactly what's happening the whole time.
Like there's nothing. All of a sudden they're racing.
Yeah, I have a note here. It's like, who's the guy on the boat with him? Were we ever introduced? Because no, there's a blonde guy on the boat with him who. So we looked into the blonde guy a little bit, Russ. I think now's the perfect time to talk about him.
Well, let's start with that because like the blind man,
It's his co-pilot on the boat, his co-captain.
yeah, yeah. But this is where like we are literally breaking these movies down by like their scenes and like their next moments, and it's like this is really tough because it's just like jumps so hard. And it's like, what the
Hmm,
fuck? Now what? So he sees a boat, he gets a little boat hard on, if you will.
sure.
We cover all that, and then he just gets on the boat with this blonde guy, right? Does he have
Right.
is there a narration when he meets him?
Nope. None at all. We have no idea who this guy is.
He just gets on this boat with this blonde guy. The
Yeah, I
boat
accept
takes
this
off,
guy at face value.
and then they take off, and then all of a sudden we're now in a race, right?
Right. And
There's
that's where he's like, as the kids say, fellow kids. And then it's like, and you're like, is this what underground boat racing is? No, there's
in
announcers.
Miami in Miami 1960s, which
Right. And you're like, and then like he's taking shortcuts. I'm like, if this is like, it makes me so mad with Brady. Shout out to Brady. Uh, Take shortcuts in Mario Kart. It pisses me off so much. I'm like, dude, you can't take a shortcut. Just like in boat racing, you can't take a shortcut in boat racing
no,
because you're like cutting across the ocean. Of
right,
course, you can cut across there if that was what the course was. It's
right.
cheating. It's cheating.
It's
Yeah,
just straight up cheating.
and he's cheating. And like, and people are like, "Oh wow, what a smart play that guy's doing." I was like, "Is this Mario Kart right now? Like,
Like,
what are you assholes doing?" Yeah,
also, how are there helicopters narrating the fucking 1960s? Who
I
are
don't
they
know.
narrating this? Who's listening to this? Where was that being broadcast to?
Uh, ESPN 8, the Ocho. Yeah, and so we're never introduced to this blonde guy ever. This
No.
whole scene goes through. There's like a bunch of slow mo scenes where John Travolta's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
okay."
Yes. And then
It's like an anime character. John Travolta's just like, "Oh," like having the best time of his life.
yeah, and then as he's in this race, all of a sudden the boat breaks down
Right.
in the race.
Yeah, but then they're just like, "All right, well, I guess we should unbreak down the boat."
Yeah, and that was a weird reaction. So like the boat breaks down. Clearly he's all fired up, and there's like this weird like cut to him just being like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. It doesn't matter if it broke down. This is great. I'm having it's fantastic time. It's like
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
It was a very weird, you know, moment. Anyways, whew.
Yeah.
so
So then you want to talk about the bags of money.
so they do the boat race, right? They finish that, and then all of a
Right.
sudden, like they finish it, and he complains about, oh, don't worry about the broken down boat, whatever, right? Okay, we're done with that. And all of a sudden, it
Mm-hmm.
just cuts to like money, I think, right? Just bags of like money, just shots of money
Right.
on a table, clearly a lot. And then he's got a boating company.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's found himself obsessed with boating. He loves it. He's got a high from it. He wants to start a boat, to basically building boats, right?
He's a big boat boy. Yeah.
I was a little confused of where we were at. I was because like, things were cutting so fast. I was like, are we still in the 60s?
Yes.
Is
I
this
think at this point, yes.
still in the 60s? But it was like, wait, cut. It was like, oh, are we jumping further in time? Or are we literally just jumping like a year from now? Um, And then they have like this. There's like this crazy big boat race they do, and it's really funny because it's like the blind guy and John Travolta on a boat. I don't
Yeah.
remember this. And they're like this big like competition, right?
Oh yeah.
Like the first big like racing, speedboat thing with a new boat company he's got, I guess, right? And
Yep.
like it's so funny because like the entire fucking boat race is just a camera on the two of them, and all you see is like it's kind of like a weird montagey thing, but it's just
Oh,
like the
it's the
two of them
best. Yeah.
pointing and like talking, but you can't actually hear them, and
Right.
that's it.
Yeah, and that's when it does the slow mo a little bit, and he's like,
Right?
"No, no one's gonna catch him now."
Yeah. It's like what the fuck? Oh my god. We've jumped to this weird, they're clearly in a boat race.
Yep.
Travolta and his blonde-haired boating buddy, if you
Finish the
will.
race. Yeah,
They
seemingly
finish the race.
seemingly
Again,
win the race.
I'm still confused who this blonde guy is. We don't know who he is. He's been given no name.
There's no
He clearly,
indication.
he clearly is an important character and part of Travolta's character's life.
Well, we should talk about that now because we had to look up what his name is because it's I know it's the beginning of the movie still, but we didn't know what his name was the whole time until we
Yeah.
looked up that his name, what is it?
Naki House.
Naki House. Incredible. But we don't know that until never. We never find that out.
Nope. And he's like a pretty major character actually, because he's literally in
Oh,
like all of the
definitely.
boat racing scenes. He's literally his best bud. Like
Yeah, he's the
he's
one
got his
doing all the
lawyer.
stunts. He's a stunt actor. He's never acted in movies really, other than doing stunts.
Yep. He said one line dialogue in this movie. He's blonde hair, but he's been in a bunch of like. He actually has a more legit. uh Next to Travolta, he's probably got a more legit movie credit list than
No,
any other.
not next to Travolta, in front of Travolta. His movie credit, his filmography is
I mean,
vastly superior to John Travolta's. He's
I
been like every great movie from the last 30 years.
Hey, Mike Massa, if you're listening to this podcast next to Jody Skurfield,
Yeah, shout out to Mike Massa.
like he was in fucking Star Wars Episode 7. He was in Blade Runner, like Star Wars, Star Trek Into Darkness, Indiana Jones. Like he's been a legit stunt guy. He's been fucking everything.
Yeah.
And here
Just
he is with one
stooping to
line,
this level. Yeah.
and I feel like Mike Massa just needs more credit than he deserves.
Yeah. Shout out to Mike Massa.
He clearly drove that. His whole point was he was just driving the boat. That was it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Boat
And then, like, they win the race, and you're like, why are all these 18-year-old girls interested in John Travolta? Like, young. They made John Travolta look young, and by young, I mean still looks like he's 65.
Yeah, 65 at least. Yeah, it was kind of weird because like he comes back and they hold up the trophy. Him and our buddy Mike Massa here, blonde,
Yeah,
and
don't care for it.
kind of weird. And then there's like a weird shot of like this 18-year-old. Do we know she's 18 or are we just making it up?
No, we're just assuming. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, definitely assuming at least 18, but she's too young for Travolta.
Oh, yeah. So then we go to the party.
All right, so he's gotten a taste, right? He's gotten a taste for the racing life. Clearly, he's winning.
All of a sudden, with no explanation at all, he's fell in love with boat racing. Like out of nowhere, he's like, "Oh no, I'm a boat guy now."
Yeah, I mean they touch on it, but it's a little loosey goosey, right?
This is where I said it to you earlier. I don't know if we recorded it, but like I would have watched this movie if it was at least a half an hour longer. Like you didn't like Wolf of Wall Street. I did like Wolf of Wall Street. I would have liked it if they explained more. Like I think some of the points were good, and like the John Travolta's acting wasn't all terrible. Like some of it would have been more watchable if they had built up the characters better. Like they could have totally spent more time on this and been like, oh yeah,
it literally is just Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, but just they cut like half. It's like Wolf of Wall Street, but half as long, and half as making sense. Like there's no,
or as I like to call it, Woof of Wall Street. I'm not cutting that. I'm leaving that in.
Yeah, fuck you.
But at this point, like, I mean, we're a quarter way through maybe the movie. Like, at this point,
Yeah, this is taking too long.
this movie, this movie felt like it was fucking edited and chopped together with like a fucking old rusty dull axe. Like,
At best. At best.
at best. Like, yeah, like I don't know. Maybe someone used a spoon to cut this thing. I don't know. It's pretty bad. So we move on. We're at like now a family party. He comes home and it's like now you get the stresses of like, well, he's in this boating thing and he's really consumed with the boating industry. And his wife is, what's her face there? Jennifer Esposito is like, ugh, I can see you haven't been around for a long time, you know? And then it's also a reminder.
Presumably this is in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, oh, yeah, right. This is like a couple years later because, like, in the original shot when they first moved down to Florida, there's a shot of like all of his kids, which I thought there was like 15 of them, and like they're bouncing around the beds. They're all like fucking 3 years old. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, reminder, he's got kids. And it's like, they only focus on one, though, the the oldest,
Sure.
the eldest, the elderly. I don't know.
Either. Yeah. It's been his motto.
The oldest kid, and that's it. And he's like, hey, Dad, you want to be, a dad? And he's
Hey,
like,
Dad, want to have a catch?
hey, yeah. And he's like, no, sorry, son, go fuck yourself, basically. It's like, oh, there's a moment of tension. It's like, all right, well, here's a moment of like, something that could be of value, like something of like, now I can.
John Travolta, Cats in the Cradle is his son. Yeah,
So
it's
then,
the whole thing.
they're in this family party, and they're still like hanging on, like it just feels like a Travolta, like they literally just like a camera following on Travolta
On
like,
vacation. He's having a blast. Yeah.
yeah. And he tells this joke, which is like it's a funny fucking.
There's a woman on the street has tattoos of Elvis on both her thighs, and I'm like, ew, John Travolta, gross. You sick fuck. Like this is an awful joke.
Yeah, we know where you're going with this.
Yeah, fuck
And
you,
it's not
John
good.
Travolta.
But it was just like it was like a terrible yet again, like, let's just show that he's the highlight of the party, moment. It felt so,
of course,
garbage.
Then we bring in what's the actor's name here?
Here we go, James Remar.
Thank you. No. Wait, no. Wait, is it James Remar?
Yeah. The character I know in the
The
movie.
the older guy, Meyer Lansky.
Yeah, like the actual actor's name is James Remar.
Okay.
I know in the movie it's Remer.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, not Remer. I'm talking about Lansky.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's James
Okay.
Remar. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I love the direct quote from the movie, because they're trying to like make this as clear as possible. They're like, oh, Meyer Lansky, financial wizard of organized crime. Like, wait, what?
That's right.
Like, and the guy who said it also wasn't in the movie. The guy who said that was like just some random guy. He's like, oh, yeah, Meyer Lansky, financial wizard of organized crime. And you're like, all right, bye.
So we get a new layer of threat to the film, right? Where he's at a family party, it seems, and now we've got this old school crime lord from Jersey. It seems like,
of course, yeah,
obviously, Meyer Lansky, right, and he's there, and they know each other. He knows his father, and they do the whole thing. And there's a lot of. I always find it funny, like I always. Like, why did they introduce each other by saying where they're from?
Right. So skipping ahead to when Meyer Lansky there is like, oh, my nephew, Robbie Remer.
It's like, still at the party. And still at the party. We got
what a weird,
we got Meyer Lansky and Travolta's character. They're having like a little face-off moment, and Lansky's like, "Remember where you came from?" Blah, blah.
Robbie Remer.
Yeah. So now you get like this crime lord guy who's involved. It's like, okay, obviously he's sticking his nose in Travolta's business here, but then you're right. Then it's like, hey, remember my nephew?
Yeah, Robbie Remer.
Robbie Remer.
Yeah, and he goes, hey, he's like, look at me. He's like, wow, I love Ben Aronoff. Like, what a cool guy. He's got everything. And you're like, I wish I could be like him someday.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, Ben banging shiksas and betting the ponies. And I was like, that's a weird line.
That's a very weird line.
Hey, folks, Jared here. Speed Kills is a lot of fun, and this episode got away from us a little, so we decided to split it up into 2 parts.
Part 2 will be coming out on Thursday, so stay tuned to whenever you get your podcasts, and we'll be in your ears then.
And in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at It's This Meets That, and we're ITMT Pod on Twitter.
Or if you're feeling old-fashioned, send us an email at itsthismeetsthat@gmail.com. As always, you can find all our episodes at itsthismeetsthat.com. Thanks for listening.